We create these classes, these secret classes, when we have a group of students who want to continue on or do a little bit more in-depth work. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Athena's Agora. Hello, Professor Emma.
Hi, Dr. Kirsten.
Hello. So, what are we going to talk about today?
I wanted to talk about our secret classes.
Our secret classes.
So, I have a secret class.
Me too.
Ooh. And
wait, what does it mean to have a secret class?
That's a class that is not advertised
on
our website, but it is available to some of our students. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a very good class if it were just awesome.
That's true. But it's not advertised because it's only for a select few students because of certain circumstances. So we create these classes, these secret classes, when we have a group of students who want to continue on or do a little bit more in-depth work. Mm-hmm. And so they're secret.
Yeah. And it's fun because it's something that we can tailor to that group of students more specifically. Not that we don't already do that
Correct.
in our other courses, but it's something where it is a little bit, not necessarily less structured, but there's a little bit more fluidity in how we conduct each class. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to talk about that because recently, in my secret class, we had a fantastic conversation where we went an hour over time, which I think they're keeping track, but I think that's pretty close to our record of going over time. They will joke about how if I don't go over time, then what are we doing? Yeah. So in this particular class, they had a really good question about something that we were looking at, where there was data that went from a really high percentage to a really low percentage back to a high percentage. They were like, is that accurate, or were we missing a number? And so we looked at it and we talked about it, and initially I was thinking, okay, here's a learning opportunity.
That's good.
We are going to go and write an email to the corresponding author. And so we found their email address, which was very easy to find, and we started composing an email. And then I thought, you know what? I think we're going to change this into a slightly different learning opportunity, which is before you email someone, do your due diligence.
Good idea.
To make sure that you're not missing something, and that this is not just, something like misunderstood along the way. So I then pivoted to, okay, I think actually instead what we're going to do is we are going to see if we can run these statistics ourselves. Now, it wasn't something where the data was just there, but I know tricks. Mm-hmm. So I showed them this website where you can upload a picture of a graph, and then you can click on the points to extract the information from the graph. And so I said, okay, I will be doing this while we continue to discuss over here. And so I had them to continue the discussion, and that was really great because then they were leading the discussion a little bit more because I was also doing something else at the same time. So then that turned into a working with data learning lesson, because then I pulled up the spreadsheet of all the data that we'd extracted, and then we categorized it as best we could. They came up with the levels of categorization, and then we ran the statistic, and it turns out that it was accurate.
Wow, that's so cool.
Just we needed to look outside of the model fit. Not to get too specific, we needed to look outside the model fit and at the actual data in order to see that. And so we were all thrilled, and we ended an hour over time.
It's amazing.
But it was really cool because it was sort of allowing us to do something, go totally off of the plan, right? And of course, that's something that I do in lessons, like typical lessons sometimes. But in this instance, we had a lot more ability to do that because we were just discussing this anyway. So
Right.
we might as well just go on 5 different tangents
Right.
about this specific question. So it was really fun.
And luckily they could all stay.
Yes.
Sometimes it doesn't always
well,
work
one of them
out.
did have to leave,
Did
but
they? Okay.
thankfully we have a recording
Exactly.
of the additional hour. But yeah, it was lovely, and they all know at this point, as best they can, they try to schedule, and I do too, try to schedule not a whole lot after,
Right.
so that
just in case
we know we're probably going to go a little bit over.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. I have, well, speaking of our secret classes, so the class that I teach, the secret class that I teach was created, like I didn't choose to do it. It was created by them. So the students that I had in class last year, they got together and they said, hey, we want to learn more. And how about this? So that's what we're doing. And because so many of them were able to do it at the same time, we were able to do it. And it's so different than the other classes. So the other classes that I teach, of course, I have everything's prepared, or I'm preparing it. I'm teaching some new classes this year. Mm-hmm. And yeah, everything's kind of set out. There's a plan, yeah. I guess. But with this class, instead of me coming up with all the things, it's the students. So the students and I are actually creating this together, and they're learning about what they want to learn about along the way. So I add, of course, my expertise, and it's really fascinating because I don't know what we're going to be doing, like 2 weeks from now. I know what we're going to do this coming week, but I don't know what we're doing in 2 weeks. So it's all morphing together, which I think is really fun. And it also, I think this is getting back to why we're talking about this. It helps when you have a situation like this to realize that, oh, I can actually start to, I'm looking for a word, to...
It's like you're guiding them in a different way.
Well, not just me, not I'm guiding them, but they're guiding themselves. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of more aligning to more of a mentor type of a person, but they're going as a group. It's really fascinating. And I think that that's something that parents should look for when helping their children to choose classes, is like, well, what could the possibilities be beyond this class? Whether or not the teacher can do anything with them after, it's like, well, what could this lead to?
Yeah.
So,
and I think it kind of speaks to how a lot of the time, and I think we've talked about this before, where a lot of the time people are told, go find mentorship opportunities for your kids. And that doesn't always come in the same sort of, I'm going to restart that sentence. That doesn't always look the same, because sometimes it looks like a class that we end up making because these kids really want to continue to learn about it. Sometimes it's more official, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it just happens because they're really interested in it. So finding not only mentorship opportunities or potential mentors, but situations where that sort of idea would be encouraged, so that it's not, because a lot of the time, a lot of the institutions are very strict about how things are run. Even if you're trying to make a club, sometimes that can be really challenging to do. And so that can hold students back a lot of the time. But having places where they are free to say those ideas and have someone say, yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that I love the most about what we do, is that when a student comes to us, I really try hard to say yes in some capacity. There have been times when there's no way that we could accomplish, and that's a little challenging, but we do try to pivot, right? If it's not this exact thing, this exact thought, what about this instead? So this is something that we can do and incorporate that. That's how the junior instructors have come about. That's how junior presenters came about. That's how the Athena's News came about. Like, there's all these different things that we do now because students have said to us, hey, what about this? Can I do this?
Yeah. So they can make their own opportunities. I think that that's something that's very empowering because it lets them say, okay, even though a lot of people say, oh, you're just a kid, right? You do actually have the capacity to make something and change something. And also, that then creates opportunities for future students too, because now we have those programs that are running because of one student each.
Right.
And they're not even at Athena's anymore.
No, it's been years.
Yeah. So it's really
cool.
And I think that another part is finding those opportunities that are pre-existing because someone said, hey, can I do this at some point? Because a lot of the time those are more niche. So even if they're really into writing fiction, there are places that will publish student work that not a whole lot of people necessarily know about. And with my group, I was just talking to them recently about how, hey, you know, if you write something about a topic that you're really interested in, because one of my students was telling us about a historical figure, they said, if you write something about that, you can put it on Athena's News. They were like, wow,
I can do that.
Didn't think about it like that. Like, yeah, you can just send us something that you worked on and you're really proud of, and we'll put it up there for you. And so that was really exciting for them because that's something they can do to take agency over their work and their interests.
So that makes me think about a class that I teach too, where it's called All Over the Map, and I was inspired by a book that was, I think I've talked about it actually before, inspired by a book that was gifted to me by a student. And once I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to make a class about this. So we go through the book and it's in segments, and each of those segments has something to do with mapping, right? Like having to do with the economy, maps about the economy, or land formations, that same type of thing. And so there's an opportunity for the kids in this class that I made around this book to create projects that relate to one of the sections, like all the sections. So they have the opportunity to create nine projects, but not everybody does 9. They have delusions of grandeur at the beginning sometimes where they think that they're going to do 9, but
then they get really into one of them.
Yep, yeah. And then that kind of takes up their time a little bit, which is fine. But by the end, they can have a really nice portfolio. And I think that that's another thing that parents should look for is what is the output in when it comes to the classes. Is it worksheets? Is it projects? You know, what is it, tests? You know, that kind of thing. Like, what is the output?
Shorter thing, like, and it's something you can't really
essays.
Yeah, take from in the future. Or is it something that you can have forever as a project?
Right. Yeah. But having them create these projects is just fascinating. And some kids will create projects that are based on, where they will have some children will do a project where some children will create projects that are all related in some way. So maybe all videos or all essays or things like that. While others
or all about carp.
Yeah. So they will have a same, I was going to say that, but okay. So there's one student who really liked carp, which is a fish. And so every single solitary project, which I believe he did 9. Yeah. So, but they was all based on carp, like the economy of carp and the land formations and waterways that had to do in impacting carp and carp around the world. So I had them make sure that they connect with, different areas around the world. So it's all about carp. So so we have that too, but I was thinking more along the lines of, some students will do like a travel journal for one project, creating like a diorama for another project, like different types of projects, and then kind of putting them all into a portfolio, where some will just have all the same, you know. So, and it depends on what you want your goal to be afterwards. So some kids will use a class like this for their requirements with their schools, some with their home schools, some with, you know, in preparation for college, like making sure that they have things to show for it. All, of course, I want them to be excited about it. But that's another thing, again, where you want to look for opportunities that where your children can do that within a class structure, so that you don't have to do it outside of the class structure too. That saves time. All about that.
And you do the same sort of thing in uncovering history too.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Yeah, for uncovering history, the students are learning the history that they want to learn, and in addition to that, they give presentations every week, and listen to other presentations and ask questions about those presentations, which helps them to be thinking about their, I guess, their, you know, what they're studying about in a different way, and also questioning everything that they're reading. So it's really awesome. And in fact, I had a kid just this past week in that class. He's taking it for the second time. And I gave the students that have taken the class before the opportunity to not have questions asked of them if they wanted. And this one child, who I was sure was not going to want to have kids asking him questions this time around, he was like, yes, I want the feedback. And it was so awesome. I was like, oh my gosh. And that shows me that they're growing too. And I love that so much.
Yeah, I think that it's the environment where each student kind of accomplishes the goal of doing something, you know, more individually, or building up those skills. Each one needs a different environment for it. And so I think it's good that there are, and even now compared to when I was, you know, in school, in a K-12 context, there were fewer opportunities like that.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think, maybe one class kind of, we did something like this, but it was very traditional, like, here, we're learning this, fill out a worksheet about it and make a little art project, and then we did it, because we weren't really thinking about that really in terms of in education.
Right.
We weren't thinking about how let's have them make this whole year-long project about whatever history they want to learn about. It was more like standardized. And so now that I think people are kind of recognizing that we can do it a different way, there are a lot more options, which I think is really good.
Well, I think that the options existed, because I remember doing, before the internet, you know, we would do things like that. So it's out there. I think that when the internet was newer, learning online was newer, there weren't as many opportunities as there are now, because now people are realizing, oh, we can do a lot of what we did in the classroom and put it online, not just the worksheets and things like that. But there is some, I do have to defend some worksheets and stuff. There are some things that about standardized education and things that can be very helpful. It's just, you want to make sure that you are not just sticking to one way of doing things all the time, because that's not how the world works. The world there's a lot going on.
Well, you want variety. You want
variety.
Just
exactly. Exactly.
I do like some worksheets.
I know, which is good. I know you do create some very interesting ones for your college students. So
sure do.
You do. That's good. Add some variety there as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just, I think more opportunities exist than people realize.
True.
You gotta look for them in sometimes unexpected places, even in person too. I mean, like, libraries will have all sorts of different things now.
Right.
Well, now and also before, but you know, they were maybe a little bit harder to find. But libraries have so many things. Even community centers,
Mhm.
they have a bunch of different opportunities.
Right. Community
There's-
colleges,
Oh,
even
for
for
sure.
young kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the community college near us hosts a science Olympiad every
Mhm.
year. So things like that, there's a lot of different opportunities for kids to do something that they can take ownership of.
Right.
Yeah. And even asking other parents in the area, because sometimes they have found things
Mhm.
already. That's how we got to a lot of different things too,
Yeah.
because of co-ops and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Lots of opportunities out there. So just look for those opportunities.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll have to figure out what to talk about next time. But until then, we'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.